We all think we know what we're doing when we wash our fruits and veggies. You know, a quick rinse under the tap to get the dirt off and you're good to go. But what if I told you the biggest risks are the ones you can't see, can't wash off, and can't even peel away? Let's dive in. So picture this. You grab an apple for a snack, you run it under some water. We've all done it a million times. But what are we really trying to get off of there? Is it just a little bit of dust from the field, or is there something more going on?
Okay, to really wrap our heads around this, there's one key term we gotta know: adulterant. It sounds technical, but it's simple. It's basically anything in your food that just shouldn't be there. Anything that makes it unsafe, not up to snuff, or just not what it claims to be. This idea is going to be our guide for the rest of this.
So first up, let's talk about the outsiders. These are the man-made chemicals, the things that were never ever meant to be part of the plant in the first place.
And of course, the first thing that probably pops into your head is modern agriculture. We're talking about, well, a whole chemical cocktail of pesticides, fungicides, and other treatments that get used from the moment a seed goes in the ground to the second it's packed up for shipping.
Just take a look at this list. These are some of the usual suspects, the pesticides that pop up over and over again in tests. Now, for the most part, they're regulated and have tolerance limits. But check out that last one, the MANIB group. It often exceeds the legal limits. And that right there, that's a perfect example of the gap between having rules on the books and actually making sure they're followed.
But here's the thing. The threat isn't just what's being sprayed from above. We also have to think about what the plants are literally soaking up from the ground. And this brings us to a much sneakier problem: environmental contaminants like heavy metals.
This slide illustrates perfectly why this is such a headache. Let's compare lead and cadmium. With lead, you can actually wash or peel away most of the contamination because it just kind of clings to the outside of the leaves. But cadmium, whoa, that's a whole different story. It gets pulled up through the roots and spreads through the entire plant. You can't wash that off. There's no peeling that away.
And believe me, the list of these outsider chemicals just keeps going. You've got fumigants they use in storage, atmospheric pollutants from industrial areas that just settle on produce, even radioactivity from fallout. And get this, there are actual documented cases of zinc poisoning from something as innocent as potato salad that was stored in the wrong kind of metal container. The sources of contamination are, everywhere.
Okay, so we've got contaminants from the farm, but the journey from field to plate isn't over. What about the chemicals that get added after the harvest and that constant battle against time itself?
And this is where we run into a huge trade-off in food preservation. I mean, to stop our fresh fruits and veggies from browning or getting moldy or just plain rotting on the way to the store, we use preservatives. But these chemicals, as helpful as they are, can have a pretty serious dark side.
A perfect example of this whole dilemma is sulfites. You'll see them used all over the place, especially on things like dehydrated fruits and vegetables, to keep them looking fresh and to stop any nasty microbes from taking hold.
And here is that trade-off in action. On the one hand, yeah, sulfites are amazing at stopping food from browning and at killing off yeast and bacteria. But the downside is a big deal. They can trigger some really severe allergic reactions, and they also destroy vitamin B1, which is an essential nutrient. In fact, that allergy risk, it got so serious that the FDA actually had to step in. They banned sulfites on certain raw fruits and vegetables, which is exactly why you don't see them being sprayed on the lettuce at salad bars anymore.
All right, so everything we've talked about so far has been about external threats. But now for what I think is the most fascinating twist in this whole story. Sometimes the danger actually comes from inside the plant itself.
I mean, just think about this for a second. Can a potato, maybe the most basic, humble food we eat, actually be poisonous? Well, the surprising answer is absolutely.
So here's how it works. When a potato gets exposed to light after it's been harvested, it kicks off this natural defense mechanism. It starts producing these compounds called glycoalkaloids, like solanine. Nature's pretty cool, right? It actually gives us a warning sign. If a potato tastes bitter or gives you a burning feeling, that's the plant's way of telling you its defenses are up and that the toxin levels are high.
And it's not just potatoes that have their own built-in defense system. The Brassicaceae family, we're talking cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, they have their own chemical arsenal too.
So these vegetables contain something called glucosinolates. In really high doses, these can actually interfere with your thyroid. And get this, we usually think cooking makes food safer, right? Well, with some of these veggies, cooking can actually increase the concentration of these bitter, potentially harmful compounds. Pretty wild. So,
We've gone all the way from pesticides in the fields to preservatives in the processing plant, and now to toxins inside the vegetables themselves. Let's take a step back and try to pull this all together.
At the end of the day, the hazards in our produce really boil down to three main layers. You've got the man-made chemicals from the environment, the stuff we add to fight spoilage, and then, fascinatingly, the natural toxins that plants make all on their own.
And that's really the big takeaway here. True food safety is so much more complicated than just washing off a little dirt. It's this incredibly complex dance between managing external threats, fighting off natural decay, and just understanding the plant's own biology.
So the next time you find yourself in the produce aisle, just remember this. Safety isn't just about what's been added to our food, but also about what's always been there, deep inside. How does that change the way you look at your shopping cart? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.